Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for waiting. We were just waiting for some people to join overseas. We've got a lot of people joining today. Welcome to our webinar on the EU Golden Visa and passport programs that are available. My name is Rob Hodson. I'm one of the senior associates here at Holborn Assets. And my colleague, Pablo Ostrich, will be running through the details and telling you a bit more information about us and why we're the market leaders. And at the end, we shall be running the Q&A session. So in total, we should be about 30 minutes. And we'll try and get round to all of your questions and your queries in that section. But if we don't, we will touch base with you individually to run through those and make sure we've answered your questions. So without further ado, I'll pass over to my colleague, Pablo. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you can all see my screen. Just make this full screen. So yeah, good evening from here from Dubai. You know, there's the chat function. So if you guys want to type, you know, where you're from, it'd be fantastic to get a bit of interaction from you. So we're based here in Dubai, but we're kind of, you know, all over the world. We have offices globally, but Rob and I are here in the Dubai office. So today I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes. I'll just quickly introduce who we are at Holborn Assets and Holborn Pass. And then, you know, we'll touch on, you know, the main news that came out maybe a couple months ago now that the Portuguese Prime Minister is considering closing the Portuguese Golden Visa program. So we'll talk about deadlines and what that means for anyone considering to apply for themselves and their family. And then I'll quickly run through the program, the benefits, the process, the real estate and the costs. And then we'll also leave maybe a few minutes at the end to talk about the St. Lucia Citizenship by Investment, which is a different program to Portugal. And it's a different, serves a different purpose, really. But it is also, it's our second most popular program after Portugal. So we thought it was worth to, you know, discuss it at the end. And then, you know, please feel free to ask any questions as we go along on the chat or on the Q&A, and we'll make sure to get through them at the end. Okay, so Holborn Assets, we're a global wealth management company, in case you haven't heard of us. We've been in the region since 1998. We have offices worldwide. We have an office in Abu Dhabi, in Saudi. We have 2 in Cyprus, in Spain, in Portugal, in UK. And then we have 6, I believe, in Africa now, and then another 5 around Asia, in Malaysia, in Hong Kong, in Vietnam, in Bangkok. So we're pretty spread out all over the world. We do all sorts of wealth management products, like, you know, fund investments, insurance products. And I head up this part of the business, which is called Holborn Pass, that specializes in investments that give citizenship or give residency. And I set this part of the business up around 4 years ago. And we have since then become market leaders for Portugal. So every year we process, or last year we did over 150 Portuguese Golden Visas. This year we should do even more. And there's only about 1,000, you know, 1,000 to 1,500 Golden Visas that are processed every year, which makes us, you know, a market leader with, I think, 10 to 15% of the global market. The reason we do so well in Portugal is because we have exclusive properties that only we can promote worldwide, and they're typically the best in the different entry categories. In particular, the 280,000 euro level, that's our strongest point, and we do have a very unique property that I'll be sharing with you at the end of today's presentation, alongside another one at the $500,000 category, which is usually a bit of a better investment, but you know, it is a heftier price. Now, our clients work with us, and we work with the bank, the lawyers, the accountants, the developer, and the government, all on the client's behalf. And we're a one-stop shop coordinating all the parties involved to get the Golden Visa or any other citizenship program. Now, I mentioned just before that the Portuguese program is, you know, nearing an end. The question really is when will it be? So it will most likely be when the budget is passed, which will be at the end of 2023. So, you know, it's likely it will either be, you know, what should be at the very start of 2024, or if we're lucky, you know, it will push maybe a few months into 2024. Now, the reason for this is because the Golden Visa has really kind of met its goal, which was to help with the financial crisis in 2011 or 2012 when it was introduced, and help to reduce the deficit that the Portuguese government had. Now, Portuguese government has in fact accomplished those goals, and Portugal now boasts full employment and is one of the best or economic miracles, if you like, of the EU. Hence why they're considering ending the program. So this is very common, at the end of the day, in citizenship and residency by investment programs, we're at the mercy of governments who can choose to end programs, or just to, this happened in Cyprus a couple of years ago, or the UK last year in February, or in the US in March. They just decided to increase the cost by 70%. So in the EU, there's also a lot of pressure from the parliament that wants to ban certain programs, in particular the citizenship programs, and puts pressure on different countries to maybe even close down these programs. So we've already got experience in Portugal with them changing the Golden Visa law. So they actually changed it at the start of last year, the 1st of January 2022. They actually banned residential property from qualifying for Golden Visa in the main cities, right? So we can only do commercial nowadays. So, usually what happens is that they give a deadline to apply. So then there's a massive rush to apply before that deadline. And it usually takes around 4 months, okay, to submit an application. So if there's a deadline, let's say this December, so what that would mean, sorry, is investors would need to start applying by August, right? We need to start working on the application because it takes a minimum of 4 months to apply for the Golden Visa, and there can be delays alongside the road. So effectively, we foresee kind of two scenarios. One, kind of a sharp stop in December 31st this year, or two, maybe they give a bit more leeway and they say, okay, by maybe March 2024, or April 2024, if we're lucky, that the Golden Visa would most certainly come to an end. So if this is the right program, for you as a family, then, make sure you do it before it's too late, because as we'll see shortly, that there isn't really another program like it, right? This slide here compares all the different country programs that are available on the left for citizenship and on the right for residency, okay? And on the left, we've got the 6 Caribbean countries, or 5 Caribbean, 1 South Pacific country, that offer their citizenship for investment, meaning that in typically 4 to 6 months, you can obtain a Caribbean passport, which lets you travel around the world visa-free, usually 145 to 150 countries, including the EU, including the UK. Now, this is a bit of a sprint, right? Is the best way I define it. And they are very beneficial to people who are looking for a quick, short-term solution that can just let them, move around the world or avoid sanctions or these kind of issues. And at the end of the presentation, we'll be talking about St. Lucia, because that's currently the most cost-effective out of all of these countries. And, typically for $100,000, all fees included, you can get a passport from St. Lucia that would, give you or allow you to become a global citizen. Okay, so that's on one side. Malta offers their citizenship, let's say, for investment. It takes about 14 to 16 months to obtain, but when you take into account all fees, you're looking at around 1 million euros in terms of full costs. Okay, and the reason Malta's so expensive is because it's part of the EU, like Portugal. Once you get that EU passport, it's not just the country that's issued you that passport, it's the 27 countries where you can live, where you can retire, where your kids can go to university, where you could work, no questions asked, and you could open up a business. And then, you have one of the most powerful passports in the world. Usually it's ranked 3rd after Japan and Singapore. So that's why, Malta is so expensive. Another route is to get the Turkish passport, but, you don't have the benefits of the 27 countries and from a developed country, stable countries, economy. So that's on the citizenship side. On the residency side, typically it takes 1 year to get the residency in most of these countries. And once you have the residency, it can become a citizenship, okay, after 5 to 10 years, depending on the country. Now, the most important aspect, if you like, is how long do investors need to spend in these countries in that 5 to 10 year period to obtain the citizenship? And the answer almost always is you have to be a tax resident for 5 to 10 years in Greece, in Spain, in the US. You need to be, physically there for at least half of that time and be a tax resident. With Portugal, however, you don't have to do that. You can spend as little as 5 weeks in that 5-year period total, just visiting Portugal, and that's still enough for you to be able to obtain the passport after 5 years, right? So what makes Portugal fundamentally different to all the other ones is that, the decision isn't to, move your family for the next 5 to 10 years and go to another country. The decision is to buy a property that qualifies for Golden Visa, starting at 280,000 euros, keep it for 5 years, and then as long as you have a basic level of Portuguese and you visit it for 5 weeks, you will be eligible to obtain the Portuguese citizenship and the benefits that we mentioned all over here. So that's why the Portuguese program is so different. That's why it's so popular. That's why it's the bestseller. It's what everyone wants to do before the deadline. And I'm just going to run you through. Let's start with just a quick introduction to Portugal, in case you haven't been. It's voted as one of the most welcoming countries in the world for expats. Portuguese people are very friendly people. Most of them now speak English, and it also is ranked the 3rd most peaceful country in the world with a very low crime rate. And Portugal has won many different awards in terms of retirement or best city or best location. For 3 years in a row, it won the best retirement destination because of the low cost of living, great food, great weather. It actually has the lowest cost of living in Western Europe. So it is a very attractive destination. They also have a discount in taxes for the first 10 years of you moving to Portugal, which again makes it very attractive for retirees on pensions, for example, or anyone who has a foreign income. And finally, it has one of the best free healthcare systems in the world. They can treat you for cancer, for a heart attack, pretty much for anything for free. Okay. And then also children can study at schools for free. And once you have a Portuguese citizenship, and even with a residency, you can qualify for lower tuition rates or discounted tuition rates all around Europe. I know that's a huge benefit for a lot of people. If you have 3 kids, and instead of spending $200,000 on each to send them to the US or to the UK, they can study in Holland, they can study in Ireland, they can study in Spain, and you're paying a couple €1,000 in tuition fees. Which nowadays is becoming more and more attractive for a lot of people. Portugal really has 3 main areas: Lisbon being the capital, okay, Porto being the 2nd largest city, and then Algarve is basically the beach, the touristic destination, right, where everyone goes on holiday. A lot of retirees also live in the Algarve. So, this is why it wins a lot of, best retirement destination, best beach destination. It's just a very, I think it's 330 sunny days a year. I think Lisbon is around 300 sunny days a year. And Porto is also another beautiful city. Okay, so all of the real estate that we try to find for the Golden Visa has to be in one of these areas, as these are the 3, prime locations for real estate. Now, in terms of the Portuguese Golden Visa program, it's been going since 2012, so it's a very tried and tested program. There's over 10,000 families who've gotten their Golden Visas, over 30,000 people now who have gotten their Golden Visas. And people first started getting their citizenships, their passports in 2018 without having to live in Portugal. Okay, so there's a long track record now of people getting their passports without living there. And, this is why it's very attractive for a lot of people. You don't necessarily have to get the citizenship. You can get a permanent residency, for example, if your country of origin doesn't allow dual citizenship and you wanted to keep your citizenship from your country of origin, that is also an option. It's raised a lot of money for Portugal. It's been a great success, and as long as you don't have a criminal record and you don't have an EU passport, you can apply and obtain the Golden Visa. In one application, we can include parents on both sides of the family, spouse, and also kids, stepchildren as well. Okay. All right. So it takes about a year nowadays is the best estimate to get a Portuguese Golden Visa, and we take care of the whole process. we can get you approved in Portugal without you having to go to Portugal. Okay, so we do everything remotely. Basically, we get tax numbers for you. We open a bank account. We do the powers of attorney with the lawyers on Zoom. Then you send the money to Portugal, buy the property, and then with the title deed and the documents that we need to apply to government, which are birth certificate, marriage certificate, police clearance certificate. We apply, we get you approved. Typically now should be around 4 to 5 months. And then the final stage is to go to Portugal to do the biometrics, okay, which takes about half a day. Our lawyers accompany you to do it. And then the 5 years start counting from that moment, okay? Now, once our clients obtain the Golden Visa cards are valid for 2 years. So in year 2 and in year 4, you need to go to Portugal to renew the cards, okay? Again, you have to do the same process with the biometrics. And, say you do a 2-week holiday at the end of year 2, and then a 3-week holiday at the end of year 4, so that when we get to year 5, you've already got the 5 weeks needed to get the citizenship, okay? Now, during the first 5 years, if you wanted to, you could go and live and work in Portugal. Okay, don't have to. But the plan B is sorted out, right? If whatever happened in your country of origin, or if you wanted to change, you could go to live and work in Portugal in those first 5 years. You would never have to get a Schengen visa ever again. Okay. And you could open up a business anywhere in the Schengen countries. And if you move to Portugal, you could benefit from the 10-year discount in taxes, as well as the free healthcare, education, and you could contribute to a pension towards retirement. Now, once the 5 years go by and we apply for the passport, you'll get it subject to the two conditions we mentioned. You visited for the 5 weeks, or you've been a resident for 5 years of Portugal, and you have a basic level of Portuguese, which is the A2 language level. Now, the A2 is not intermediate, it's not advanced, it's basic. Typically, it requires a few months of study. We can organize online classes for you. We do it for all of our clients. And that's it, really. After a couple of months of a couple of hours a week, you get the A2 certificate, and that's what we need to apply for the citizenship. Okay, you can take it as many times as you want, but as I said, it's a basic level, an elementary level, and that's it. At that point, you'd have the 4th best passport in the world. I think it's actually the 3rd now in the latest ranking, which allows its citizens to travel to 187 countries visa-free. So anywhere in green on this map is where you could go visa-free, and anywhere in blue is where you could live, work, study, retire, etc. Okay, so that's in terms of the immigration side of things, the process, the timeline, etc. Now, in terms of the investment options and the costs, okay? So there's a few different routes to qualify for the Golden Visa. 99% of our clients do the real estate, so I'll focus on that on the next slide. But to just kind of cover the other points, one route is to donate 250,000 euros to the arts, which I think one person has done in the last 10 years. You can invest into a high risk, typically venture capital fund, but the exit strategy is usually 10 years. So, people don't want to be locked for that long. And then you could also block 1.5 million euros in a bank account for 5 years. But, why do that if you can block 280,000 in real estate? And finally, the last option is you can create a company and pay salaries for 5 years for 10 employees, and that could also qualify you for the Golden Visa. But again, that's a lot of hassle and a lot of liability. So we find that most of our clients end up doing the real estate. And in the real estate, I mentioned earlier that the law changed last year, severely limiting what actually qualifies for Golden Visa. And effectively, in the good areas that we mentioned before, Lisbon, Porto, and the Algarve, residential property no longer qualifies for Golden Visa. It has to be commercial. And we're not really looking at any of the rural areas in the dark gray. We stick to the main cities. So we need to find commercial properties that are attractive to investors. What's commercial that qualifies? Retail, offices, hotels, and apartment hotels. And apartment hotels is the closest thing to residential. So, we're very focused on trying to find good investment options across the different categories that still qualify for Golden Visa. Now, there's basically two different types of category for the real estate investment side of things. The first one is new build, which refers to any property really that is commercial. In Lisbon, Porto, if you buy one for €500,000, it will qualify for the Golden Visa. In the Algarve, that drops down to €400,000. And then the second category is if you refurbish a building that's 30 years or older, that amount drops from €500,000 to €350,000 in Lisbon, in Porto, and to €280,000 in the Algarve. Now, in 2016, when they introduced this category, effectively, they just created Golden Visa products, okay, whereby a developer would buy an old building, sell it to Golden Visa investors for €280,000 each. Included in that price was the refurbishment. So they would then refurbish that property, bring it back up to standard, then rent it out for the next, say, 3 or 4 years. And then in year 6, when the clients got their passports, they would buy the property back from the clients, okay, offer a buyback guarantee. So effectively, it becomes like a 6-year investment where you get your money back once you get your passports, okay? Now, it's very tough nowadays to find good properties here that are not co-ownership, okay? Most of the properties on the market are co-ownership, meaning you own a percentage of a building as opposed to an individual apartment. Okay, but we have one property which I'm going to show to you today, which is exclusive to Holborn Asset. It's the only one in the prime location at that €280,000 price that where you actually own your own apartment. Okay, so this I'll show the property here is called Yellow Tulip, and then I will also show one in just the outside of Lisbon, which is on the €500,000 mark, which is the best that we've found at that price point. Okay. I've met with 25 different developers, and these two properties right now are the best in their categories by a country mile. So I'll start with a more expensive one, which is the Obidos Royal Obidos Golf and Spa Resort, which is a project that is 45 minutes north of Lisbon. It was built in or finalized and open to the market in 2021. And you can find it on booking.com, where I think it's 8.7 out of 10. It's a 5-star resort that has its own spa, the apartment hotels. There's 128 units, and I think there's about 90 units that are sold. So we have maybe even less, maybe I think around 30 units, maybe 25 units that are still available in the apartment hotels, which all face the golf course and the sea. Okay, and it's in a beautiful area, which is there's loads of golf courses around, equestrian clubs, sailing clubs, surf clubs, and around, I think it's 4 or 5-star resorts are all in the area. Now, what's particularly interesting about this project is the financial aspect, because clients get the rental return for 5 years paid up front, which means the price is reduced from €500,000 to €368,000, because you can use the rental return as part of the property purchase price. Okay, so this rental return after tax becomes €131,000, which means that the price drops, let's say, from €500,000 for the 1 bed to €368,000. The studios are sold out. Okay, so pretty much this is what's left over, the 1-bedroom apartments, which are 88 square meters, and yeah, so the other 2 conditions, if you like, so this property will be rented out to tourists who come and spend a day there, a week there, a couple of weeks there with their families, and the investor can use the property for 6 weeks per year. So if you're planning to spend some time in Portugal, a month a year, a couple of weeks a year, you can spend up to 6 weeks in this 5-star resort. Finally, the developer offers a buyback option, which is signed at the beginning and gives the investor the option to decide in year 4 if they want to go ahead with the buyback in year 6 at the original price of €500,000. So they choose in year 4. If they want the buyback, they'll get the €500,000 back in year 6. If they don't want it, they can keep the asset as an income generating asset. Should be making around the 7% mark throughout, or they can sell in the open market to at whatever the market price is 6 years from now. So these are just nice pictures of the Obidos resort. This is the entrance from the back. And these would be the interiors of the 1-bedroom apartments with a living area, balcony, and ensuite bedroom. Okay. I mentioned before that the rental return after tax is 131,000 euros. Okay, so effectively what you're seeing in this quotation is that the rental return is paying for all the other fees associated with the Golden Visa, which are legal fees start at 11,000 euros for a single applicant. There's 7.3% in taxes that are paid in Portugal when you buy a commercial property. And then you have the Golden Visa card fees, which are paid to the government. Okay, so in this example, there's already a net profit of 77,000 euros. Because you own an asset for €500,000. Okay, and then in year 6, that profit is effectively you get back the €500,000 in year 6. Okay, so one thing is the buyback, which is at the original purchase price, and then separate is the rental return that they're advancing you at the beginning to help with the costs. All right, so this is the best project at the €500,000 mark. At the €280,000 level, the investment side of things isn't usually quite as good because it has to be an old building that gets refurbished. However, this property here is the most attractive, as I said, that we've found and there is on the market at this level. It's located in the Algarve in Algarve, okay, which is one of the nicer parts of the Algarve. And these are pictures of what the 4-star resort is currently like. Okay, so it's been a hotel operating for the last 35 years and effectively it's just closed down last October for refurbishment. And they're going to then redo the property for the next couple of years, bring it back up to standard to a 4-star modern day, all-inclusive type resort. And as I said earlier, the most unique feature of this property is that the investor can own 2 studios and they have the full title deed and it's their apartment, right? It's not co-ownership, which if you look carefully on the market, that's pretty much every other project out there is co-ownership. Here, the investor can own 2 studios, this will be Studio 1 and Studio 2, okay? And for the price of 280 to 295,000 euros. And the investors will receive 4 out of 6 years rental because the first 2 years it's being refurbished. And of which those 4 years, 3 are paid up front to help with the initial costs of the Golden Visa. And then finally, they have the same buyback as with Royal Obidos. The investor can choose in year 4 if they want to go ahead with the buyback in year 6 or if they do not. Okay. And the investor and their family can stay there for a couple of weeks per year for free as part of the rental agreement. Now, the hotel is going to be renovated on the outside with brand new tennis courts, facilities, a pool, beach, restaurant. And they'll also redo the interiors, bring it up to today's standard. Okay. The yellow tulip is the most cost-effective way to get the Golden Visa. So the full cost to get the Golden Visa would be 297,000 euros. And you have the real estate purchase price, the legal fees, and as I mentioned earlier, 3 of the 4 years of rental are advanced, and the developer essentially is paying the the transaction fees of buying the property, which are around 20,000 euros, in order to lower that capital outlay required to get the Golden Visa. So that's everything in terms of Portugal and the investment options that are currently available on the market. Now I'll just touch on for a couple of minutes just on St. Lucia. So Portugal is probably the most flexible solution for someone who's looking to get a developed country's passport with a view of potentially relocating there in the future, or having a plan B where you can go and live, or for your kids, or a country that offers stability and infrastructure and healthcare, etc., etc. However, it does take a year to get the Golden Visa, and then it is 6 years until you get the citizenship. So the benefits of this are huge, but they are more long-term. And if you've got, young kids, or, this can help everyone in the family. And also, your kids, their spouses could be Portuguese, and your grandkids, etc. Everyone can be Portuguese. But if you're looking for citizenship with a more immediate solution, the best option right now, i.e. the most cost effective, is St. Lucia. Out of these 6 islands here, which are all, besides Vanuatu, but they've lost their access to the EU. So now it's not really that attractive. So out of these 5 countries here, which are all in the Caribbean, they're all in the eastern side of the Caribbean. They're all pretty much identical in the terms of, you know, what they can offer as countries, or even just geographically, and their economies are very, very similar. And currently, the most attractive one is St. Lucia, because we can do it essentially the cheapest, right? So St. Lucia is, you know, it's a beautiful country. You may have heard of it. It's a very famous honeymoon destination. You can fly in from, you know, from Europe, from many different areas. You can fly into St. Lucia. It's one of 2 countries that has a female name, or is named after a female. It's just St. Lucia and Ireland, which is an interesting fact. And it was originally discovered, I believe, by the Spanish, and then it was fought over by the Brits and the French for, I think they went to war 14 times over St. Lucia, so it changed hands, you know, 14 times. It's currently part of gained its independence in the late 90s from the United Kingdom, but the King of the UK is still the King of St. Lucia. Okay, so they have a part of the Commonwealth. They have great ties with the UK and also with Europe. And, you know, St. Lucia is located here. You know, Antigua and Barbuda is here. St. Kitts and Nevis is there. Grenada is here. Dominica is here, right? They're the 5 countries that offer their citizenship. So they're all in the Eastern Caribbean, and they're all, you know, part of the association of Eastern Caribbean states, which effectively is like a small EU. You know, you can live in any of the countries if you have the citizenship. They have the same currency. And really the benefits of the Caribbean citizenship, as I said, it's an immediate solution. So if you're having to get visas for months and you're getting rejections, or you know, there's sanctions just on your country, you know, St. Lucia is probably the best option to avoid all of these problems. For example, a lot of Nigerians or you know, people have you know, difficulties moving money abroad. One of these passports can really help with all of those issues that aren't really that aren't designed to an individual, but really to affect a whole nation, just based on what your nationality says on the passport. So the main benefits is that you can travel to the UK and Schengen visa free. UK, you can go up to 6 months at a time, okay, without a visa. And then you could, you know, leave, and then it's not really defined how long until you can come back into the UK, but, you know, it could be a couple of weeks. Schengen, it is 3 months out of every 6 months that you can visit visa free. And then Hong Kong, Singapore, and another, you know, 140 or another, you know, 110 countries on top of that. So again, one of the main benefits is that you don't have to queue for visas. You can just jump on a plane tomorrow and go, you know, wherever you want, as opposed to have to give your passport away for 4 months to an embassy, and then to find out they reject you for, you know, an immigration risk or whatever reason they decide. Also, you know, this, you know, if you're in a country where there's a bit of volatility, or you know, anything can happen really in the future, right? Who would have thought, you know, a year and a half ago that Ukraine, you know, would be in the state that it is? So having a passport like this allows you to have a plan B, which allows you to, firstly, you could go and live in any of these Caribbean countries if you wanted to. You could retire. But also, you know, you could just go to the UK for 6 months, and then to Europe for 3 months, and then back to the UK, and do that forever if you wanted to. It is true that with a Caribbean passport, you know, because the UK and the Commonwealth have very good relationships, that it is a lot easier to get a job, get a permit, get anything in the UK. And a lot of time there's quotas for citizens from these countries to be able to live in the UK. You know, it is the Caribbean. It is a beautiful destination, not just for honeymoon. You know, it could be an interesting retirement destination. And also, finally, the Caribbean are very well known for being a low tax jurisdiction. So there's pretty much barely any tax from any of these countries. And the healthcare and education, it can really help to, you know, get into universities in Europe, in the UK, or be able to just go to, you know, certain medical facilities in the UK or in Europe and not have to leave after a couple of weeks because of a visa, right? You could just stay there until, you know, say a treatment is done, okay, or go and visit a family member without having to spend 4 months in queues trying to get a visa. So hope that was useful. Let's open the floor to Q&A. Robert, we're going to stop sharing my.
Yes, we have a few questions. I'm not going to show my camera because I can't read and look at the camera at the same time. We had some prior questions. The first one is about a US non-habitual resident. How will they be treated tax-wise with, I imagine, the Portuguese scenario?
Yeah. So the first thing is that they should get tax advice from a from a US attorney. But if you're from the US, I don't think there's a lot that you can do to escape tax. You're taxed worldwide. It doesn't really matter where you're resident. You'll still need to pay taxes in the US if you're not paying them in the country where you are. So if you do have, the non-habitual tax regime usually reduces the tax to something like 5 or 10%. I imagine if you're a US citizen, there'll probably be an excess amount you would have to pay over that compared to if you had a passport from a country that doesn't tax you just for being a citizen, but rather taxes you on where you're resident. If that's the case, for example, if you're Lebanese and you move to Portugal, effectively you wouldn't pay taxes on the first 10 years on any foreign income that you're bringing into Portugal, right? So that's the usual scenario. You've got a discount for 10 years on any foreign income from a pension, from a job, from whatever it is that you're bringing to Portugal. You don't pay tax or very little tax for 10 years. For US citizens, unfortunately, chances are you will have to still pay a good amount to the IRS. After I think you have like 100,000 minimum where you don't have to pay tax, and there's another 100,000 based on accommodation and a couple of other benefits where you don't have to pay. So hopefully that answers that question, Rob.
Good. Okay. Does the process change depending on the applicant's nationality? And then more specifically, do Brazilian citizens need to wait 5 years for the passport?
Right. So I believe for Brazilians, it can be 2 years, but you need to go and live there for those 2 years, right? You have to live for 2 years in Portugal. But there is that special agreement with Brazilians because of the historical ties and with Brazil. I think it's also the same for Spain. So I'm from Spain. Pablo's a bit of a giveaway. And it's the same for example, for Mexicans or for Argentinians. If you go and live in Spain for a couple of years, you can also get the citizenship. Okay.
Okay, lovely. All right. One person has asked the pitfalls of co-ownership, because you did touch on the fact that these are freehold title or full title deed properties. Yeah. They were asking the actual pitfalls of co-ownership. Yeah.
So I'll actually I'll share the screen. You can go on online and try to find other real estate options. If you look at what's available online, you'll quickly see that it's either in a remote location or it's all co-ownership. So for example, this property here, it's in the Algarve, which is a good, very good area, but it's co-ownership, which means you don't actually own an apartment, you own a percentage of the building. So all of these, this Alentejo one, which is, again, Alentejo, it's not a very nice region. It's really in the interior rural areas. Comporta, again, not a prime area. It's not the Algarve. And all these Lisbon ones, that's 350, for example. These are all, again, all of them are co-ownership. So with co-ownership, you are at the mercy of the developer buying back that share from you in year 6. And, there's a good chance they will, as per their contracts, but, things could go wrong, right? They could, developers go bust. Projects often don't work. So in order to protect our clients, we make sure we do 3 things. 1, it's in a prime location. Okay. 2, it's not co-ownership. Our clients own their units, which means that in year 6, if the buyback didn't happen, you have a property that you can sell on the open market in a prime location, and there's a quick exit strategy, for the client, right? So this way you're mitigating, the risks as much as possible. There's always risk in any investment you make, but by it being in a prime location with a solid developer, so that's the other one. We only work with developers with a long track record. And for both the projects that we've shown, the developer, they've been in business since 2009. They've done, I think it's over 20 projects already. So we're very comfortable with them, and this is why we're exclusive with them. We've done our due diligence with them, and yeah, they have the best properties on the market. So just to summarize that, Rob, if in year 6 you were in a co-ownership property and they didn't buy you back, how do you liquidate your investment? How do you get your money back? No one's going to buy 0.2% of the building. They're gonna you're gonna have to wait until it goes into liquidation. It could be stuck for 10 years, 15 years, until an institutional investor at an auction price buys the property back, and then you get your money back. So I know it's a pessimistic scenario, but it is just the reality of co-ownership. You're not in control, you're dependent on the developer.
Perfect, thank you for that. One person has asked if we have any details on buying property in Madeira in order to gain Portuguese Golden Visa.
Yeah, so it is. I mean, Madeira is nice. Cristiano Ronaldo is from Madeira, and it's a beautiful, beautiful part of the world. Madeira is, just put it on the kind of here on the map. So it is, it's not, mainland Portugal. Let's say it is a tiny island. It's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. But it's not Algarve, it's not Lisbon, it's not Porto, and that's why we don't look at it, because of what we've mentioned before. But I'm sure that you can find. Well, I don't know if you find a good investment, send it across, and maybe we'll partner with them. I've seen some, but normally they maybe either don't have a buyback, or we don't trust the developer, but fundamentally it's not in a prime location.
Okay, perfect. Kim has asked, what is the best visa in the EU if you want to work in the EU?
You probably need to get a visa for a specific country. There isn't really like an EU working visa. It's more, a visa in Portugal or in Spain, right? And every country will have different requirements for skilled migration or non-skilled migration. With Portuguese Golden Visa, you can work anywhere in Portugal. With the Greek Golden Visa, which you have to invest at least 250,000 euros in real estate, you cannot work in Greece. You can open up a company, but you can't work in Greece. Spain, you can work, but you have to invest €500,000. So, frankly, I think Portugal would have the best Golden Visa that allows you to work at the lower entry level price.
Perfect. Next question is, we're looking to buy in Lisbon city centre, but the rules have changed. Can you still own in Lisbon, or are these co-ownerships only?
It's pretty much co-ownership only, because the law changed, so residential doesn't qualify, right? Everyone wanted to buy an apartment in prime Lisbon, and the market's gone really well. You can do that, but it won't qualify for Golden Visa, right? And a lot of people, want to have the option to maybe live in it. Again, now residential doesn't qualify for Golden Visa. So, the rules are set, and we just need to adapt. And, normally I recommend going for one of the properties at the 280 level and use this as a means to an end. Keep your costs at a minimum, invest into a safe project which isn't co-ownership, where you own your unit in the worst case scenario. And then in year 6, get your money back. Then you can buy, a home to live in central Lisbon, or maybe in Spain, right, if you prefer, or in Italy or in France, right? Once you've got your passports, then you can buy a home, which, first of all, you can get a mortgage, you can choose any location, it can be residential, so you're not that restricted by all those constraints. Now it's pretty much impossible to combine the option of, central area, wanting to live in it, and Golden Visa. It doesn't qualify.
Perfect, thank you. We have covered this, but somebody just asked the time frame that it takes to obtain the solution passport option.
Yeah. So let's say it takes about a month from when we onboard the client until we can apply, right? We compile the documentation. It takes about 1 month. Once we've applied, the government will respond within 3 months. And then once you're approved, after those 3 months, it'll probably take them another, 4 to 5 weeks to, well, let's say, 4 to 5 weeks until they've received the payment from your side, because normally it's something like 10% to begin. So let's say $10,000 day one, $20,000 after 1 month, and then upon approval, that's when you pay the remaining $70,000. Okay, so in month 4, month 5, you pay the $70,000. They issue the certificate of naturalization. They issue the citizenship, i.e., the passport, and they DHL it to us, and we deliver it to you wherever you are in the world. So, 5 months, I'd say, from beginning to end.
Okay, and same person's asked if we help with non-resident mortgage. If you're looking to debt gear for a Spanish property at the 500,000-600,000 mark, I'm not sure if that's related to obtaining the EU visa, because you can't actually debt gear the property in Portugal. But we certainly can help with other financing if need be in other countries, if you have gone through the EU visa process. So do you have anything else to add to that, Pablo?
Not really, just for Golden Visa purposes, you cannot use debt in that country. So there can't be a mortgage attached to the property in Portugal, in Spain, for at least that €500,000 level that the government requires. Anything maybe above, you can probably get some sort of financing in Portugal as well. We've done that for some clients, but you can get a personal loan outside of Portugal to fund any, such activity, but no mortgage allowed on the property under the 500,000 minimum, let's say.
Yeah, good. All right, we'll just wait a second to see if there's any more further questions, because we've answered all the ones in the Q&A section. We will follow up with everybody individually to make sure that we've answered everything, obviously, and if there's any other questions we can help you with or start the process if you're looking to do that. And I think nobody else is adding anything else in, so I just want to say thank you very much for your attendance, and I hope you found it useful, and thank you, Pablo, for all the information, and we'll follow up with you shortly. Thank you.
Pleasure. Cheers. Bye-bye.